Hi, this is Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Job Search Radio on webtalkradio.net. This is a show where I like to spend a few minutes talking with someone who's an expert on some element of job search in an effort to try and help you learn some of the skills that you need to find work. Because after all, the skills needed to find work are different than the skills needed to actually do the work. So my guest is Joshua Waldman. Joshua is a speaker, an advocate of social media career education, and the author of Job Searching with Social Media for Dummies. Joshua, welcome to Job Search Radio. Great to have you on.
Hey, it's great to be here.
I'm glad. And Joshua, when people think of social media and using networking online to find work, of course they think of LinkedIn. Yet there's this other behemoth out there that's far larger, has far greater potential, that very few people really use. Obviously, Facebook. Why do people miss out on that, and what can they do differently? Maybe we can just start with, why do they miss out on that?
I think LinkedIn does a fantastic job of marketing themselves as the career professional platform. And if you listen to Jeff Weiner, the CEO, if you read any of the marketing materials coming out of LinkedIn, it's very much about professional development. They have a recruiting product, which of course is relevant for job seekers. It's hard not to notice that LinkedIn is the go-to place and probably the highest leverage tool for finding work. But what people miss out on, like you alluded to, is that Facebook actually, when you look at the numbers, according to the JobVite 2013 State of Recruiting Survey, we actually found that Facebook, to a lot of people's surprise, is responsible for something like 8 million more jobs than LinkedIn was responsible for over the last year.
Wow. Numbers I wasn't familiar with. Thank you. So how does the miss occur?
I think, so we I don't know what it is, but we think, all right, I'm going to do that job search thing. And so we start talking in a different way. We write in a different way. We use resume speak and job interview speak. When we kind of step into that avatar of the job seeker, the reality is that most jobs come from referrals. And referrals come from people you know. Well, guess what network happens to have all of the people you know closely, and that's Facebook. Those are where your friends and family come from. That's where referrals happen.
So I confess I'm not used to thinking of Facebook in that way. I've started using it recently, and I'm struggling a little bit to do the kind of work I do in terms of recruiting people and finding them. And I imagine some job hunters would have the same problem in reverse. So, yes, there are the obvious things about asking your friends. But going beyond asking your friends, what else can people do?
Well, recruiters hang out on LinkedIn. There's no doubt about that. They don't necessarily want to hang out on Facebook. It's not the game. The job search game on Facebook is not the same game as it is on LinkedIn. You're not on there trying to impress recruiters, right? You're on there letting people who know you understand your situation and what it is that you're looking for. So yes, asking your friends is there, but it's also more than that. There's several techniques that you can use. One of them is leveraging graph search. We could talk about that in detail. The other one is using your Facebook timeline as a brand building journal experience for people in your network.
Interesting. Let's start with timeline, okay? So how would someone start the process of leveraging their brand through their timeline?
Well, there's a great story of someone who I interviewed a couple of years ago. He was in Wall Street. He was making pretty good money flitting around between different firms. So he'd work for a couple of months at one investment firm and then get bored and move to another investment firm and move on to another one and so forth. And he probably spent a good couple of years doing this. Then, of course, the economy tanks, the investment firms go away. He's left without a job, and he has a resume where he hasn't held a position for more than a couple of months. And not just that, but people who knew him on Facebook, his friends, were kind of tired of his, let's say, protean habit of not sticking around for very long. And so when he was asking for help, there really wasn't a lot of confidence about this guy, right? You know, like,
the boy
why would
cried wolf so many times. Why would you go help him yet again?
Exactly, you know, and so what would happen if I was his friend and I referred him into an opportunity and he leaves after 3 months? How's that going to affect me and my reputation? And so what he decided to do was to change perception of his brand, which he really hadn't thought about before, and he used Facebook to do that, and he did that by journaling his commitment to his career and his insights into investments, and reinforcing how he's really changed his perception of his life and what he wants to do. And he just really told his story. And after a while, his network started to trust him again. And he was referred into a position through Facebook.
Fascinating. So just the simple act of thinking out loud and expressing the struggle that he was in about his circumstances and his sharing his awakening or his career enlightenment made enough of a difference with his friends. Do you have a sense of how long that might have taken for him?
It took him a couple of months. Now, keep in mind, he had a pretty dramatic situation. He had a lot of repair to do. Most of us don't need to spend that much time. It really, if we're posting regularly, we know what our brand is, and we're consistent with our message, couple of weeks before people really start to pay attention to your seriousness, your commitment. And keep in mind, you know, he was very brave. Vulnerability, he was vulnerable, and vulnerability is a very courageous thing to do. And I think that the more vulnerable you can be with your friends and family on Facebook, the more willing they're going to be to help you out.
And I know for a lot of people that runs counter to the idea of being, quote, professional. You're supposed to be professional when you're talking about work. And that is the antithesis of what you need to do, particularly on Facebook. You need
particularly
to
on
people. Yeah, you need to engage people and enroll them, and especially in that circumstance, being vulnerable was essential because otherwise they're just going to think he's the same guy who's hurt them before and embarrassed them before.
Yes,
Interesting.
exactly. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Are there other ways that someone could do brand building through their timeline?
There's some techniques you can use with pictures. For example, if you're posting pictures of yourself giving a presentation or of some work that you've done, Facebook's timeline gives you a carousel feature. So something like 3 or 4 pictures really makes a very nice looking post. It tends to get more attention. Images tend to have more likes and comments than just comments. Or text-only posts. Video also does very well. And if you look at a lot of the techniques that internet marketers are using, big brands are using with Facebook, you could definitely leverage that, but within the microcosm of your own network. So video, pictures, multiple pictures on a single post. These are incredible techniques to get more top of mind.
And for the job hunter, and again, I'm just trying to present this with an eye toward them. You mentioned the idea of doing something professional or public speaking. What other sorts of images or videos could be useful for them to show to demonstrate themselves in that, quote, professional manner? Yeah,
showing, I like to say, and maybe you've had a guest say this before, but I like to say that your resume is your obituary, right? It shows the world what you did. What you want to do and what a visual network like Facebook allows you to do is to show the world what you are going to do, the value that you're going to add. It really rounds you out as a person, whereas a resume is very two-dimensional. And so video is in images of you doing something professional, of course, is very important to have up there, but it doesn't have to be all the time. You don't have to fall into the trap of, every picture I post is me in a suit and tie giving a presentation. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be you smiling. It can be you eating your lunch. But the only question that you're going to ask yourself when you post is, does this post build my brand or break my brand? That's it. That's the only question that you need to ask yourself.
Beautiful. Very, very interesting stuff, Joshua. You're listening to Job Search Radio on webtalkradio.net. And I'm going to talk with you now about my Job Search Insider tip, which is a little bit different than the ones I've done up until this point. And I'm going to tell you a little bit of a fable with a moral at the end that I think is very helpful for job hunters. And it's the story of how lions hunt gazelle. You see, when lions hunt gazelle, the gazelle are far faster than the lions are. So what the lions do is they set up this system amongst themselves. Old lions lie in wait, and the young lions drive the gazelle in the direction of the old lions. Certainly the old lions could never catch the gazelle, but when the gazelle get right up close to the hiding lions, the lions stand up and they roar this tremendous roar that terrifies the gazelle, who turn around and run in the opposite direction, directly into the teeth of the young lions, who are able to capture them and kill them, and they're all able to feast later. If the gazelle had run in the direction of the roar, they would have been able to escape because the old lions never would have been able to catch them. And that leads to you as a job hunter. How many times do you place yourself in the position where your fear overwhelms you, your reluctance to network, or to place yourself out front in an exposed way holds you back? And thus my encouragement to you is to go toward the roar professionally, to go toward the roar in your job search. And at times you may not be successful, but practice often does make perfect. And if you keep doing these things again and again, you will become expert and be able to defeat the fear and be successful. So that's my tip. Let me come back to Joshua Waldman. Joshua, we've been talking about timeline. Let's go to graph search now and what people can do with Facebook graph search to help position themselves for their search.
Yeah, Jeff, it's probably one of the most underused features of Facebook, and probably the most underdocumented one. So what we're going to go into is some pretty advanced technique, and it's all about networking. Just like with your job search tip, networking is often scary, particularly for introverts like myself, and so I get it. But we also know that networking is the way that you expand your possibilities of finding employment. So if we think about the total population of people on Facebook, it's over 1 billion. It's a lot of people. Chances are that there are individuals working at your target companies on Facebook. And by degrees of separation, you may be able to actually contact them. It's pretty amazing. So graph search is the search bar that appears at the very top of your Facebook profile. And what it does, and I'll just define it real quick. Graph search looks at what's called your social graph. So it's everything about yourself that you've revealed to Facebook, what movies you like, what hometown you're from, what current position you have, what quotes you like, what music you listen to, everything that is collected about you from a social networking point of view is actually indexed and can be used as search filter to find other people. So the way to do this is to just pop into there, and it uses natural language search. So when you log into Facebook, you go up to the top and you can say, look, I'm looking for people. So what you put in there is people who work at, and you put in the company, you actually put in the company name, who live in, and you put in the location. And it will give you search results in order of connectedness. So the people at the top of that search results list are going to be people who are actually in your friends network.
And how far out will that search take someone? So, for example, yes, there are people on my immediate network who might work for, and I'm just going to use a bank's name here, J.P. Morgan Chase. And it'll, of course, return the people who I'm already connected with who work for that bank. How far out beyond that will it go?
It goes pretty far. What you want to do, people who are already in your network, it might be a worthwhile strategy to reach out to them, but in many cases, it's the people who you don't know yet who you need to be talking to. And so there's a filter actually on the right side of that search result page. You can see more options. And the option you'll pick there is not friends. And so it'll take all of your friends out of that search result, and everybody who will be showing up are going to be people who are not in your immediate friends network.
Fascinating. Mm-hmm. And since some people will only allow you to look at their page if you're already a friend, do you have to send a friend request at that point?
No, I wouldn't suggest sending a friend request. So that the strategy I would have here is to look for company and location and then not friend as the filter. And then the more people reveal about themselves, obviously it's easier to know how to approach them. And a lot of people don't self-identify or don't make certain posts or pictures or information about themselves public. So you're just not going to know. However, you do know their name. And you could go over to other social networks. And this is why I really advocate a holistic social media approach. You can take their name and go onto LinkedIn and find them. And then you'll know what their position is. And now at this point, you can make a decision. I'm either going to reach out to them on Facebook or on LinkedIn. And I'm not advocating one or the other. I think it's not inappropriate to reach out to people on Facebook. I've done it, and I've had good reception from it. And it can very often.
Reaching out to them on Facebook, do you do it as a friend request or do you do it through messaging them?
You don't. I wouldn't suggest doing a friend's request. I would message them first. Now, it's an interesting thing with messaging on Facebook is you can a lot of people you can send messages to for free. Now, most people are not going to have that option. So particularly if they're not in your friends network, you could message them, but that message is going to wind up in the other folder of that other person. If you have never heard of the other folder, neither have they.
Folder. What is
a
the
black
folder?
hole. It doesn't go anywhere. No one looks at it. It's hard to find. I haven't looked in my other folder for years. What will happen is if you send a message to someone who's not in your friends network and there's no direct connection, they're not second or third degree connected, there's nothing you have in common with that person, your message is going to wind up in the other folder. So how do you get around that? There's a technique where you can pay up to $10, it's $1, $2, to guarantee your message gets delivered to their inbox with Facebook. Really, really powerful, and it cuts through the clutter. There's just so much happening on LinkedIn right now. And the response rates to in-mails are very low. They're getting lower. But when you can contact someone on Facebook, that's going to get read. You know that's going to get read.
Yeah, I know, and I agree with you, by the way, about LinkedIn. As someone who does the kind of work that I do, in-mails are not getting responded to. And LinkedIn guarantees that they'll be read in 7 days, or they basically return the in-mail to you. The message still sits there for the recipient, but I'm not charged for it anymore. And I'm noticing regularly I'm getting 7 back, 10 back, 4 back, because people just aren't responding. And Facebook, you're right, it'll cut through very easily. And just to reference this for a European audience, and I may mispronounce the name of this network, LinkedIn, of course, is global in scope, but a little less weighted toward Europe than than this network is, which, if I mispronounce it again, I apologize. Xing, Xing.com, which I think tries to be the LinkedIn of Europe, and it has a very heavy German orientation to it and Central Europe orientation to it. So that might be the alternate for where someone might research how to connect with someone outside of Facebook or LinkedIn for that matter. So it's interesting. You can pay to get your message delivered on Facebook. I didn't know that.
I could pay $10 and have Mark Zuckerberg read my message.
Does explain how he became a billionaire. So in working with Facebook and graph search, you've spoken about being able to search not friends at particular companies in particular locations to find people, and you've spoken of ways to connect with them. Are there any other techniques for using Facebook to broaden your network and be able to reach into organizations or reach out to people that you might share with the listeners?
Well, there's always the more traditional, conventional approach of liking the page of the company that you're targeting and starting to engage with the recruiters there. Just keep in mind that the people who run those pages are either in marketing or in recruiting, and unless you're going for a marketing or recruiting job, those are not the decision maker, and so that's a longer route. It's probably very good for information gathering, but not necessarily for networking.
I agree. At times you can find these people, the people that you want on Twitter. I know we're not really doing a Twitter show today, but you can sometimes find the more relevant people on Twitter where they individually appear there and identify themselves with firms rather than on Facebook where they may shield, their professional circumstances from folks. So I heard you talking now about going to a company page to be able to do some of the networking and marketing and recruiting people being there. Any other tips that you might share about using Facebook for networking for job hunters? I would say the same principles for networking on Facebook, the same principles that you would use for doing this on LinkedIn would apply on Facebook. In other words, know who your target audience is, know what your brand is, have a profile that's attractive. If you don't have a good-looking profile on any network and you start reaching out to people, your response rate is going to be very, very low because they are going to look at your profile before deciding whether or not to reply to you. So just keep that in mind before you do these advanced networking techniques. Go back into your profile and make sure that you filled it out. So you have your work history filled out, your education history filled out on Facebook. You have a quote, an About Me section, and all of these elements are set to public. You really want to make sure you do that so that the new person you're connecting with is going to be able to click on your profile and read about you. If you don't do this, you are just that black hole, and chances are they're not going to feel comfortable replying to you. And that leads up to the reminder about changing privacy settings, because so often people leave them on, not being public, because that's the drumbeat that the conventional media puts out there. And in point of fact, as I say to so many people in my coaching, you need to be a visible figure. You need to think of yourself as a public figure, whether you're looking for work or not, so that when opportunity is ready to knock, people can find you. And if you stay private, particularly on Facebook, as more and more recruiters come on, that's corporate recruiters and third-party recruiters become active in looking, they're never going to be able to find you. You're going to miss out on opportunities that are, can really open huge doors for you.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot of our media does this, of course, because fear sells newspapers, and so there's a lot of fear around the whole privacy issues with Facebook, and lock it down, shut it down, and I'll tell you all these things that happen. The reality is that You just have to educate yourself on what's an appropriate privacy setting configuration for you that maximizes your public exposure and minimizes the risk of your friends posting stupid pictures on your wall and those going public. That's just a matter of 10 to 15 minutes playing around with your privacy settings so you understand it.
So true. Joshua, thank you. It's been terrific, and you've given folks some great advice about how to use Facebook effectively as part of not just simply a job search, but as a career strategy for building a brand and for helping individuals become visible so that opportunity can knock on their door. How can people reach you?
Well, the easiest way to get more information about social media job search holistically and also very specifically about Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and personal branding, check out my blog. It's careerenlightenment.com. It won the About.com Reader's Choice Award in 2013. I've got hundreds of articles on there freely available on all kinds of topics, and I think you'll find a lot of value from that.
It is a terrific site, folks. You really should go exploring. A lot of good information. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. And folks, I'll be back next time with more job search advice for you to help you with your search. I'm Jeff Altman. I hope you found this show helpful. You can also come over to my website, which is thebiggamehunter.us. I have tons of content in video, print, and podcasts of this show are also available at my site as well. You can post positions. You can search positions I'm recruiting for. There are places that you can post your resume to. A lot of good information at thebiggamehunter.us. So come over to the website and go exploring. I also want to remind you that if you have a question about some aspect of job hunting, I'm a live person job search and career coaching expert. So you can reach out to me through liveperson.com. I'd be very happy